Well, I lived in a village called Fitzwilliam, the Red City, and our coal was delivered by horse and cart first. The wagons that brought the coal from the pit were only at bottom of the street. You were allowed 1 ton a month, and you didn't pay for the coal, only the lead-in. And then not long after I started getting the coal in with my dad, the chap who delivered coal by horse and cart bought himself a 3-wheeler tipper, and everybody remembers this 3-wheeler tipper, and so that's how we got us coal. When I'm from a family of six children and parents, and I was the eldest son, so when I came home from school, if the coal was outside the gate, I was expected to start getting it in before my dad came home from pit. And then eventually I used to end up more or less getting it all in myself by buckets. The yard was about 25 yards long, so we carried it with buckets. It was no good having a barrow, because it meant shoveling it twice, you see. So when you got the ton of coal, any dross that was in it, that's the dirt that won't burn, you piled against the gate, and then the dustbin men used to shovel all this dross up. And if you didn't want to burn the dust, that was also left near the gate, and the dustbin men would clear that up. I can't see people doing that nowadays.
Coming off school bus,
and you'd see it.
And you'd see this mound, you think, how it's not outside ours.
Well, it was outside our house, yeah. And you couldn't stop on, you couldn't get back on bus because you know that when you were going out, you had to get the coal in because there was nobody else to do it.
And they're all laughing at you, well, kids saying, "Oh, you're coming out to it. Oh no, you've got coal to get in."
Yeah.
And that was it.
And if you didn't get the coal in that day, it'd be nicked because my dad was the only one on the street that had coal because he was only one bloke that worked at the pit. And if you'd have left it out, somebody'd have pinched it.
I've still got a coal house now at the moment, but it's used as a shed, and I have 2 coal bunkers instead, which the better really, you know. You can sort of eke your stuff out. You know what you've got, where if it's all piled up in a coal house, you've got to throw it in at the back, and you can't really keep throwing bags in. I don't think it would be easy for the delivery men in a coal house as it is in a bunker. It's a lot better.
But I soon realised as a kid as well, when these tons of coal were being taped, there was money to be had in that. So I started, got a few jobs throwing it in. So I had to get lorry to tip it there. And then it was up to us to throw it into coil oil, and that's what we did. And, people helped each other. And I always remember the first time I asked my dad if I could, have a go at chucking it in. And like I said, I realised there was money to be made here, even if it were just a tanner anyway, for a ton of coal, that it was there, wasn't it?
And then there were Nick. Like Nick used to sit, when I was getting in, Nick used to sit up while laughing.
And then she used to say, you'll get this back. But I remember I was 6 years old, me and my mate were getting coal in, I was swinging out the door, and the door fell off, and all the coal come out, and I thought, I don't know if you can say this, I thought you can now, I'm off. So off up fields I was gone, until my dad got back. And I was sat on fence, he just tried chasing me. There was coal everywhere, It was bloody mad.
I've got a coal chute just outside my house, and my coal gets delivered down into my cellar. I've got a little portion of my cellar blocked off, door in. Everything's nice and clean in my cellar, and as soon as you get through this door, and it's just covered in black dust everywhere. But I still get coal delivered from a coal merchant. 2 or 3 bags will keep me going. That's probably like once every month or 2.
Well, it's like Wales with concession, you should get dumped.
Ours got it dumped, and then they had other people had a coal man. Oh, they had the sacks, and they bought theirs by the sack because everybody had coal. Everybody had coal.
How many loads did we get a year?
Pardon?
How many loads did you get a year?
10 loads a year. Cut it down in some, and it was spread. It was like a load every
it
5
5
weeks.
weeks?
Yeah, and you had,
Yeah.
you had a red card.
Well, I think that's why I used to deliver. I used to give them this coal
Yeah.
card so that I think, I can't remember if I accepted it or whatever. I remember the coal man and all with leather
With leathers.
waistcoat on,
Yeah.
didn't he?
Yeah,
And he also, that's another saying, he say, you look as black as fire back.
yeah.
And he also did, didn't he?
Mm. And he used to bring with coal card and he used to sign it, say you'd had your coal.
And then he were on his way, wasn't
And
he?
then he were on his way. Then you put your coal card away.
First thing we did was to get rid of old ashes. Now, next thing you have to put some paper in to get it going. And then some wood, kindling. Now, if you're short on kindling, you can make it out of rolled up, we call them puff balls. You get a piece of newspaper and you twist it round and make it into a little ball. And then when you see wood getting odd, then you can put some coil on it.
Well, you'd have to make sure the fire was completely out because sometimes it would burn all night slowly. So you'd make sure that the fire was out, rake all the loose ash down underneath the fire, and then shovel the ashes into a bucket and take them outside, and then lay the fire again to start a new fire.
So one of the jobs my brother and I used to do is sometimes on a night make the paper for the sticks to go on, and we used to roll it, and you had to roll it really tight and then sort of wind it round, make like a knot. And when you used to set these on the fire, one after the other, as many as you could squash in and then light it on the end. And also we had sort of another square piece of tin, and the poker that you used to poke the fire with. And when all the fire was set and it was lit, we used to put the tin up, and it was called a draw tin, and put the tin up on front of the fire. Or sometimes, if you didn't use the tin, my dad used to put the poker on the fire with a sheet of newspaper round. But if you took your eyes off it for 2 seconds, the newspaper would go up in flames, and then you had to sort of think, oh goodness, start again.
Does away with a lot of rubbish. I burn everything.
Yeah, you always put tuna cans on the fire to get rid of the smell so that you don't get cats coming
yeah.
round. Yeah.
Anything like you burn anything. You don't have a. Only thing that goes in my wheelie bin is ashes.
And my grandma's house were exactly the same. She had a fabulous range there, and my gran used to cook. And I don't know how they used to work it, because today you have an oven and it's got all the temperature gauges and all this and timers and everything else. And I asked my grandma once, how did you know whether the oven were hot enough? And she said, well, your granddad lights the fire at 6 o'clock, and when I've got the baking ready at 9, the oven's hot enough for it to go in, so it's be right. And I don't know how that works out, but it always worked, and the baking were absolutely brilliant.
The best thing about having an open fire, as I remembered, was you couldn't have toast on the morning. Remember, there was no electric in the village. So on the morning, it would still be burning the fire. But at tea time, toast time, because you'd have red embers. So some people, posh people, had forks to toast, but we used to put a towel around us and stick a slice of bread on the bread knife and toast it in front of the fire like that.
When the fire used to die down, we always had a fork, what you call a toasting fork. And my father, late at night sometimes when the fire had died down, he used to say, we'll get some bread, and we used to make toast because we used the fork to hold the bread over the fire, just more or less the ashes, and used to have toast instead. We didn't have electric toaster, so that was a special thing as well.
There was no electricity in where we lived, so my mother had to do all the cooking on a coal fire oven, and there was very little. It run out about a month's a delivery of a ton. That's summer and winter.
Every morning, because we always had the coal fire going, my mother used to make a pot of tea, and the tea was left in the teapot on front of the fire to keep it warm. And one of the things that I always did, especially with the coal fire and the warm oven door, and we had quite a raised hearth on the old fireplace, and I always sat on the hearth. I got told off more times for sitting, especially next to the fire. But this particular morning I got up for school, and the fire was lit, my mum put the teapot down, and I stood near the fire to get warm, and a dog that we had came and rushed in and jumped up at me, and I actually sat down and sat on the teapot. Other than for getting told off for being in front of the fire because I could have gone up in flames, I burnt my bottom with the teapot lid.
We had a front room which was the posh room, and we'd be allowed a fire at Christmas time. That's the only time we all gathered in the best room. It was Christmas time, and my dad would carry a shovelful of hot coal into the fireplace and get the coal going in the best room.
We had no hot water without a fire, but in summer, and the weather's lovely and warm, we've got a great big roaring fire going there, because we had to have the fire to keep the water going, and so we had the heat in the oven so you could cook. And so all the doors and the windows was wide open in summer, and people thought you were crazy. You've got a great big hot fire burning away there on a lovely hot day, and you needed it. And of course you went upstairs to bed then, and you were sweating, and you had all the windows open and everything else. And then come winter, it's the opposite way around. You were freezing to death everywhere you went in the house.
In winter though, we're absolutely gorgeous because, Sue went to live away for a long time, then she'd come up at Christmas, hot family would be there, and this fire would be just roaring up back. We'd all be sat round carrying on and laughing.
And you could hear water bubbling.
But
once you got, because you had the fire.
Didn't we have to do something when water was bubbling?
Yeah, you had
to turn immersion on or
something. You
something.
had to turn immersion on. You had to run hot water off at tap, and there was like a clip at the back, and so that it wouldn't draw fire up.
Oh, that thing, wasn't it? Like a flap, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was like a damper, yeah.
You used to pull your bloody, burn your hands.
Yeah.
So you used to pull your sleeves off the thing and you want it like
that.
But
radiators never got hot, but the water were always boiling, and you could hear it bubbling.
So we did have an horse and cart, and I often went down pit yard with my dad, and he'd get a couple of sacks of slack, and get them onto cart, and then my dad would pass a bag over to misters what worked there, and there'd be cabbage in it, taters in it, and stuff like that in return, you'll see me right, I see you right, sort of thing,
Growing up, we had, at the side of the fireplace, when the fire was lit, the coal oven, which the fire used to draw under and heat the oven, which heated a big metal plate inside, like a shelf. And through the winter, because you didn't have radiators, central heating, we used to have an old dirt sheet, which was always kept in a cupboard by the fire. And on a night before we went to bed, we used to take the shelf out and wrap it in the sheet, and that was to heat the bed.
No, I used to like going to stay at my grandma's, because my grandma had a bed warming pan, and she she used to put it in the oven in the range, And myself and my cousin, we used to stay there frequently on a weekend. And my gran used to bring this warming pan out of the oven and stick it in the bed before we went up. But the two of us slept in the same bed. She had the single bed, and we were fighting for the spot where the warming pan had been, so we could keep warm in bed till things settled down. And well, it was ever such fun. And occasionally she used to take the metal, it had solid metal shelves in her oven, and she used to take them out and wrap them in a flannelette sheet and shove them in the beds as well to warm the beds up. Because, of course, the beds were absolutely freezing when you went up to get in.
Oh, I love the chimney sweep. Yes. It was supposed to be twice a year, or sometimes once a year, but the chimney sweep, we'd ring him up and he'd come. And all the brushes, the big brush heads, and the length of the rods, and to sort of watch him pushing this big brush up the chimney, and then to go outside and to shout when it came out the chimney top. It was such, it just seemed so simple, but it was such an occasion for the chimney sweep to come. And then a lot of the times people, the soot that he got out of the chimney, sometimes the chimney sweep would bag it up and take it away, but a lot of the times we used to keep it and we used to put it on the garden. Apparently it was supposed to be good for the vegetables and things.
Oh, you had to have your chimney swept every year. Now, some people didn't need the chimney sweeping, because when I was an electrician, we used to get people coming up and begging zinc rods off us. In a little township, it's a wet battery to work the signals. Used to have rows of 24 of these batteries, and zinc rods were part of the circuit. Well, people found out that if you put zinc rods on hot coals, it used to destroy the soot in the chimney. But we also had ours swept once a year. Unless the damn thing caught fire, then, you know, it used to be a regular thing, but chimneys catching fire. Thick green, yellow smoke belching out till they put the fire out.
I have a bit of a confession here, because my dad would never pay for a chimney sweep. So on a Sunday, which was the day when all the fire were cleaned out, when we relit the fire, my dad used to keep some spare old newspapers, and we put the draughting up and get the fire really going. And then to clean the chimney out, my dad used to put newspapers, lift the draughting out, put newspapers on the fire, burst into flames, put the draughting up quickly, shoot straight up the chimney, and it took all the soot and everything out the chimney as it were going up. But if anybody had any washing out on a Sunday morning near us, they'd have to do it all again, because it'd be blathered in it. I don't think my dad would be too pleased about me bragging about that, but he used to perform that trick regularly.